Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Curious Lo.
And today, Lo and I are going to tell you how we felt about Independence Day Resurgence, the sequel that I kind of think nobody asked for, and that I was still kind of excited about. Because, okay, I got to tell you the story real quick. When I was a kid,
go for it.
Because I was 12 when Independence Day came out, and I saw it in the theater, and it was one of those giant event films that seemed to pull the whole country together, and everybody saw it. It seemed. And I was really into that movie and loved it, and immediately wanted to see more of it and thought that there should be sequels. And we'll talk about that because I no longer agree with 12-year-old me, especially now that I've seen this. And I wrote, Lo, the first few chapters of what I thought would be the Independence Day sequel when I was 12.
Cap writing fan fiction. I love it.
And it started with their finding with our main characters from the first movie. I think Jeff Goldblum's character specifically finding something that on the moon that showed us that the aliens were coming back, and that's and I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought it was kind of funny that ended up happening. But anyway, so Independence Day Resurgence, 20 years later, the aliens have decided to come back and try to destroy us again, and they've chosen right now because it's novel in an anniversary year, and it's Independence, it's the 4th of July again, even though they didn't open the movie on the 4th of July like they did the first time around. I think they did that the first time around. I remember when I was a kid thinking that they did, but maybe they didn't. Did they not?
I'm pretty sure they did.
Okay. So we've got Jeff Goldblum's character again. Now, is he the head of NASA or the head of something like NASA?
He's like a director of something. Yeah, I think that he's just the head of like Alien Task Force group.
Space-faring, stop the bad guys.
Yeah.
Organization. Yeah. And so a few of our characters from the first movie are making their return, including Brent Spiner's scientist, who we thought was killed in the first movie and is brought back, and was in a coma that entire time, which was, I thought, a fun idea that we could have done a lot more with. But anyway, and then we have a whole cast of new characters, none of which really grabbed me or I found very interesting. Lo, this I don't know. This is another one of those movies where the trailers got me a little bit, and then it wasn't nearly as creative as I thought it could be.
Oh, I love the first Independence Day movie. Like it's a popcorn movie. It's silly. It's ridiculous. I have no delusions about the fact that it's not like an amazing ethereal movie, but it's a fun movie. I watch it like all the time. Like around Independence Day, I'm pretty sure I've watched it like every Independence Day since it came out, type of thing. Like I've had the DVD forever. I love it. So when the trailers started coming out and they were using that iconic speech and just like, I mean, it was total nostalgia, but I was okay with it. The first movie was a blockbuster. It kind of started, it was one of the few that like started the summer blockbuster like thing. And
absolutely. Yeah, especially the big disaster film craze.
Yeah. And I mean, like the director made a whole career out of it. That's like all he's done. And
some people think that he just keeps making this movie again.
He kind of does. And I mean, I love disaster films. I have a special place in my heart for disaster films. So I like a lot of his movies, but he kind of does. But that's the thing. I was expecting this to be very similar, like big budget popcorn flick with some kind of cool characters that are sort of silly and quippy, and they move on and they save the world and we're done. This was so much more confusing than that. I think that they tried too hard to do everything from the first movie and then some. It just didn't work.
Yeah, and there was an attempt, and this is a thing I appreciate to a degree, but we'll talk about it because I'm conflicted about it. They attempted to create this really complex mythology out of a thing that in the first place is using aliens as another device for a disaster film as opposed to being a real complicated science fiction story. And so we've gotten out of that. So where the aliens in the first movie feel like they're a like they're like any other, you know, big like natural disaster, right?
Yeah, they're
And
just a force of nature.
they're a force of nature, and that they're the tornado, or they're, you know, like all of the storms from the day after tomorrow, like that's what they are. And now we've had to try to like overcomplicate that in order to warrant having a sequel, so that we're not just doing the same thing again. And then weirdly, we kind of do the same thing again. So anyway, well, I can't wait to read your sign. Why don't you flip your sign and tell us the things that you most liked and most disliked about this movie, Lo?
Okay, so my sign says, I feel like I watched a better version of this movie for the last 20 years. So, as I already mentioned, I really, really love the first movie. It holds a special place in my heart. It's just a fun popcorn movie that I stick on. I watch it on the 4th of July every year. I typically quote the entire little speech on my Facebook or whatever. You know, it's a fun movie, and I was really, really excited for this sequel. And I feel like it could have gone one of two ways, where like it was either good enough that I liked it and was okay with it being there, even if it wasn't as good as the first one, because I have so much nostalgia attached to it. I'm sure that nothing could have ever measured up to it because of that. Or it was just going to be something that was awful and ruins everything for me. And while I don't think it ruins the original movie, I really, 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 really did not like this. And I feel like I've been so negative about the last few movies that I reviewed. I promise I'm not turned into just like a negative person. It's just been luck of the draw that the movies that I reviewed have been ones that I have not liked. Hopefully this will not continue throughout the rest of the year. But best thing I think would be the visuals, while improved, don't feel like they're in a different universe. Like maybe the Star Wars, the two different trilogies, those feel like they're in like very different universes, but this still feels very similar, with the exception of the white ball thing. But that's, without giving spoilers, that's okay. The aliens still look pretty much the same. The technology still looks pretty much the same, if not a little bit more advanced, but that's okay because it's been 20 years. I would say that the visuals are really good. Least favorite part would be just how convoluted they made the plot. They tried to do just way too much with everything that was going on in the movie. They tried to touch back with every single character that was still alive. They tried to then catch up with characters that we had never met before, which is cool. I appreciate adding new characters, but they added enough new characters that you couldn't catch up with everybody and introduce all these characters and actually follow and care about all of them, including characters that we didn't meet until halfway through the movie. And some of the characters, I don't even know what their point was other than to just be a callback to the previous movie. I mean, we don't need another group of children going across the desert. We just don't. Like, in the previous movie, it made sense because they were with a character that became integral to the plot line. With this one, it was literally just to have some callbacks and introduce a character who had nothing to do with the story, but he was just there because he was in the previous movie. So it was a lot of, they didn't juggle the like callbacks with adding new stuff. And honestly, as far as the plot goes, some of my favorite stuff was the new characters, the like group of young people, probably because they had stuff that was the most different and unique. Like there's all the stuff when they're inside the ship and they're like running around and stuff, which was like unique for this series. It's not something that we've seen before. And that was probably one of the only sequences that wasn't ripped right from the first movie. So they didn't do a good job of juggling old and new and making them cohesive. It was just a lot of pasted together scenes and not one, but two epic speeches. They had to one up the last movie. What did you think, Cap?
So Lo is clearly not feeling it.
No, and I will say that I did like this better than, say, like Ninja Turtles. It just, I think that I just have too much emotional attachment to the first movie to really be able to sit down and enjoy this just as fun action. But I mean, like, my husband fell asleep in the middle of this, so I know it's not just me. And he doesn't even like particularly like or dislike the first movie. It's just like, it's just a movie to him. So I can sort of trust that I'm not crazy because he also was like bored out of his mind.
Yeah, well, the difficulty for me is that, and I know these will be fighting words to you, but we've talked about this a little bit. I'm to a point now where, I mean, I still have a lot of nostalgia for that movie because I was there, and it was a very new thing, and it looked real, and it holds up really well.
Yeah.
But like in the theater, like that was, as I said, a massive event movie. It didn't feel like you were going there to see this story about this other universe. It felt like it was supposed to be like, what if our world actually got attacked by aliens? And at the same time as it now to me feels like, and I think maybe this is on purpose, a big budget schlocky B movie. Part of the reason that the characters aren't any more like fully realized than they are is, I think maybe I'm giving it too much credit. I'm talking about with the original movie, is because it's not so much about them, which is why I don't like that the build is, takes so long in that movie. It's kind of more about putting yourself in those shoes and having this big ride, and we didn't recapture that with this movie. And where I'm at right now is, and where I was in the theater, is I kept comparing it, obviously, to its previous material, and I kept thinking, okay, I don't think these characters are all that interesting or all that well put together, and there's a lot of really awkward dialogue where people just aren't making sense or acting like people, and nearly everybody is a complete idiot in this movie. And I think it would be fair to say that that even characters that I thought in the first movie didn't exactly feel like real people, or didn't, weren't elevated beyond an archetype, like a singular dimension, were out of character from where they were before. And I realized that it's been 20 years, but when I say out of character, I mean like not seeming anything as much like real people as they were in the first place. Jeff Goldblum's character, David, that guy from the first movie, I don't think would be ignoring the expert in pictographs. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that was really strange, where he's like, oh, it's the science that matters, not the history. That's dumb. What are you talking about? And I just don't think that he would be doing that. So I was wrestling with it, Lo, the whole time, where I kept thinking, I don't think this is a very good movie, but measuring it up against its previous installment, I don't think that's a good movie either. So what was it about it that I really liked that I'm not liking as much about this, and are they maybe two different things? So here's where I've landed on.
Okay.
They are two different things. And that movie, I feel like I have to have been there, and I've got to have the nostalgia that I have for it to really appreciate what it was, and I've got to have some historical perspective, because nothing like that had really been done before, and we were pushing envelopes, especially visually. That kind of alien invasion thing hadn't really been done to that scale before. It was all about scale, and it's somewhat slower because we're making a big deal out of the effects, but it's also somewhat slower because we haven't seen a bazillion of them, and now we've seen a bazillion of them. So where I'm at now is, this is no longer a disaster film. This is a straight up science fiction space epic franchise. I realize the whole thing takes place on Earth, but it's like that. It's another Stargate, or even like it's got some horror sensibilities. It's even got like a little bit of a Tremors feeling, some things like that. But it's not it's a straight up science fiction thing now. And Lo, I don't know if that works. Like, I'm to the point where I kind of think the problem might be that it was made. And I mean, like, I think maybe we could have handled this material better. These people didn't have to all be idiots. There's a lot of bizarre leaps in logic and stuff. Where I don't want to give too much away, but we didn't learn anything, and then. And then our government in this makes a ridiculous decision at the beginning that I don't feel like they ever really learn from or grow from. Right? Yeah. You guys didn't see that, but Lo put her hands up in the air. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. There is, I think I can say this without giving too much away. There is an object from space that shows up, and we're not sure if it's the evil aliens that we've been dealing with or something else, and we impulsively just fire at it. The whole movie should have been about the repercussions of that action, and I don't feel like we really learned from it. So yeah, we could have done this material a lot better. But having said that, what was neat about the original at the time was imagining our world the way it was being attacked by aliens from another culture. Does it really make sense to take that premise and then go back to that world, which is now a decisively different sort of world?
Yeah.
And so here's my sign. This movie made me feel like I was watching the failed pilot of the Independence Day TV show on Sci-Fi. Especially, again, without giving it away, when you get to the end, this is not a movie. This is a pilot for an ongoing television show.
Well, you know that they intend to make 2 more sequels, right?
Do they really? Yeah. I don't think it'll do well enough that they'll be able to warrant that.
Me either. But that's the plan. I mean, they already have on IMDb like Independence Day 3 like up there, and they've been talking about it. And
yeah, at that point, we're just money milking or trying to. I don't know if there's any money left to milk out of it after this, but we're just trying to go back to that well again, and it's another one of these nostalgic sequels that isn't bringing enough new to the table. I have the exact same thing I did with the Ninja Turtle sequel, where I was with it for a while. I don't know if you had that, or if you had a disdain from it from the very first frame.
No. I was with it for a little bit, and honestly, like, there are moments I enjoyed myself at times. I will say that the character of Charlie was probably the character that I cared about the most. He was Hemsworth character's like co-pilot / friend, skinny guy.
Okay, yeah.
But the thing is that he was a comic relief character, so like. In between all these,
way too many of those.
Well, but the thing is that I think that he was sort of a breath of fresh air in between these scenes where all of these other teen characters are like doing like massive info dumps and saying lines that are recycled from the first movie just so it can be a callback, and saying overly dramatic things that there were moments where I was literally leaning over to Gabe and being like, he's about to say this, and then they would say word for word or almost word for word what I just said. And I'm like, this is so predictable and stupid that like his character, I was like, yes, you're surprising me and you're saying things that I don't expect, that like I actually sort of cared about him. But for the most part, it pretty quickly, I would say probably about a quarter of the way through the movie, I was like, oh no, this isn't going to be good. And I kept kind of like clinging to hope. And just the further and further we got, there's a moment where they call back to a line that the warlord says early on in the movie about killing them from behind. And they call back to that. And I knew exactly what he was going to say before he said it. And I was just like, all right, I'm done. I don't care about anything else that happens in this movie anymore. That was sloppy. And I saw it coming from a mile away. And like, ugh.
Yeah, I feel like I probably would have liked it even a lot less if I knew the original movie as well as you do, because even though I have a lot of nostalgia for it and I loved it when I was a kid and I saw it a few times, I obviously haven't seen it as many times as you have, and not recently. I watched it. I did watch it recently, like a couple months ago, but I haven't watched it a bunch of times recently. And so some of those callback lines I didn't pick up on. So, oh boy, that's worse than I realized.
The moment when and I really try not to do spoilers here, but there's a character right before they die who says, "We will have no peace," or "There will be no peace," which is a direct callback to a line that the alien said in the first movie.
And there was human context for that.
Yeah. So we've just flipped a line that the bad guys said as like the humans were they were like, "Can we please have a peace between us?" Like. And that just goes with the fact that they shot first at this spacecraft that came there early on, that the humans have learned nothing. The humans were in a better place in the first movie because they understood that they should still, even if they're pretty sure these guys are going to attack them, try to get peace first, because that's what good guys do. And in this, she just out of no context says, "We shall have no peace," or "There will be no peace." And it's a direct callback, but you're calling back to the bad guys, and now you've made yourself the bad guys, and
Yeah, and it means
just
nothing. Like, I mean, I don't even want to read that far into it. It feels like just a callback. Like, it doesn't mean
it
anything.
is. I know it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything on purpose. I'm saying that it bothers me that they
No,
took
you're
this
right.
line from the bad guys and brought it into and made the good guys say it. So then that makes me immediately think of the fact that they're the ones that shot first. They're the ones that started this. Like,
Yeah. I got so... Yeah, and then it's hard to find anybody especially sympathetic, or at least the people that went along with that. And it was kind of most people except for Goldblum's character. And it's like, you know, he was making the right choice because he's the smart guy. Like, it was kind of arbitrary. But yeah. But yeah, like I was with it for a bit. What I wanted it to be, and what and because I thought this is what maybe they were aiming at, or at least what they sold it as with trailers, and then what it felt like it was for a while, was a really tongue-in-cheek, absurd, over-the-top sequel that was kind of aping bigger and better sequels. And like, if this movie had convinced me that the point of it was to have a lot of fun with how insane it is to try to make an Independence Day movie 20 years later, I would have loved that. And I thought that's what it was for a bit, and then I wasn't sure about it. But like I said, what made me kind of conflicted through it was a lot of the things that you don't like, Lo, and that you're criticizing were things that I kept trying to decide if I could criticize, because the first movie had some of the same problems. And so I was sort of like, okay, it's just this series. And like, maybe I would have loved for them to have gotten more sophisticated with their storytelling, but it's also like the first movie I always saw is schlocky B-movie material, so maybe that's what it was. But again, compared to that movie, it has a lot less heart, and I don't like these people as well. And that's saying something, because I just, again, recently watched that movie again, and I feel like a lot of those characters are stock, but a lot of them have something akin to sort of actual character arcs, even if they're kind of obligatory character arcs. What this movie does, at least what it seems to me on a first viewing, you know, without really dissecting it, what it felt like it was doing in the theater was establishing a bunch of motivations and background and stuff for characters, like the first movie was doing, and then not really, and that would be the catalyst for character arcs, and then never really doing anything with them and never paying them off. I don't think anybody really learns anything or gets anything from this experience.
Yeah, I think that because you're right, the first movie is not perfect by any means, and I really want to make sure that people watching this understand that. I realize that the first movie has flaws for sure, but I think what makes me like it compared to how much I don't like this one is that the first movie has enough of, even though some of it is like totally emotionally manipulative with like score and shot composition and like all that sort of stuff to make me like, oh my gosh, these characters are in trouble, and like, I'm a sucker for disaster movies. That's what they do. They put people in peril, and you have these boyfriends and girlfriends that are ripped apart, and now they need to get back together. And like, there is that sort of stuff, but they did a better job of doing some cliche stuff for sure, but actually having a full, like, here's this couple that we love, and now they're separated. Oh, now they're going to get back together, and we've seen them worrying about each other. Or here's this mother and child, same thing. Or, you know, here's these people that are struggling to survive while aliens are shooting things around them, like that sort of stuff. There were few enough characters, and I think that it definitely was just that there were too many characters in this, that we could track each of these plot lines and be a little bit emotionally invested while still being like, yeah, aliens. With this one, they set up some of that, and then wouldn't really touch on it again, and there'd be just aliens everywhere. And then they had like reunions of people at the end, and I'm like, but we weren't tracking them. We weren't seeing them missing the counterpart to the person that they were separated from. We weren't seeing this kind of relationship, and it just felt like they had a setup and an end without any of the build up in the middle to make me actually care about what was happening when all these people are, oh, they're finally safe, sigh of relief. Because half the time I had no idea what was happening in some of these dogfights, and especially the one that took place inside the ship. I had no clue where any of the ships were. It was just explosions and nothing. So I couldn't get scared that Liam Hemsworth was in trouble. I was just like, I think he's in trouble because Charlie's saying that he's in trouble, but I had no clue what was happening.
Yeah, and then we lose them for a good long time, and I had to be reminded, oh yeah, they're on the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. It was weird.
So you're gonna hate my analysis when I finally sit down and write about Independence Day, but because last time I watched it, I found myself not really all that invested with any character at all. But like some people were kind of fun. Like nobody in this has the charm and the heart that Will Smith had in that movie.
Oh, for sure.
Nobody's got that. They attempt, like, I think the guy playing his son is doing an okay job, but he's flimsy. There's nothing to him. So I think that there's a lot of characters in this that were just kind of nothing. And as you said, they should have really streamlined that down and not had nearly as many of them. But yeah, the first movie at least had clear threads with obvious beginning, middle, and ends. And this, again, there was a lot of setup for stuff that we never really explored at all. And I don't mean like really meaningfully explored. I mean explored at all. Like you can go back to the first movie and at least point at themes that they deal with in some way, even if you think that they're really kind of empty. This movie, there are several characters that are paralleled in having family members that have died because of the aliens, and that's like their primary motivation, or the thing that they find that makes it difficult for them to be motivated. And we don't really put any of that together. And another issue is all the couple of, again, I won't say who, but a couple of characters who play the roles of characters that we had in the first movie just because it's treating it as a clever callback and not because it's interesting. And you could do that in an interesting way, but especially the ex-president, Bill Pullman, who gives as good of a performance as he can give. First of all, I have no idea why he has the mental link-up thing with the alien. I have no idea. Like, what caused that?
It's because he's one of the people that was like affected by them in the first movie, and that's why the warlord also had it throughout the movie, is because he had like fought a bunch of aliens, which I want to see that movie. Can we please see the like warlord group going after the aliens? Anyways, because he had
a lot of interesting ideas set up, and I don't mean thematic ideas, but I just mean like a lot of interesting kind of like sci-fi, plot things.
Yeah, but
it could have been awesome.
That actually did make sense because it was all the characters that had come into contact with the aliens and had that like physical contact with them.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's
so that's why they were getting that. That was something that made sense.
Okay. Well, I was asking a question because I forgot about that part of it. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. But he ends up playing the role of another character for the first movie by the end, and it was too obvious and
shot for shot. Like,
yeah,
it was really just missing the line that this character says.
Yeah,
and and I will say that, like, I think that there was a lot of interesting stuff that they set up with the president and his daughter that could have kind of brought these two plot lines together of all the young people and all of the old people.
I did like her a lot.
Yeah, there was some great acting
at least
in this movie. They just didn't have great material to work with. Like, I bought that these people were upset and angry and scared and all these things. It wasn't like I was like, what is happening? Because there were some awful lines that these people had to deliver, and they delivered them pretty good for how awful the dialogue was. But yeah, I don't want to like keep talking about it forever. People are gonna hate me.
Absolutely. Brent, it was exciting to see Brent Spiner back again, but his character again was kind of pointless, I thought. Like he's brought back, and he's the guy who was running Area 51 before and has all this knowledge about the aliens, and then I don't feel like he ever really gets to bring any of that to the table. He's kind of just there.
He's there with all of the like silliness that his character had in the first movie without any of the purpose that his character had in the first movie. Like, it was okay that his character was silly and kind of kind of crazy because he's in Area 51 and he can't talk about anything that he does. So he's really excited to show everybody, and he has all this knowledge so he can share it. And it's a way to move the plot forward and a way to like move like the info dumps forward without them being like really info dumpy. They didn't do a good job in this movie of having characters and scenes work toward multiple goals. They were like, okay, this is the scene where these people are sad. And this is the scene where we learn this bit of information, instead of combining those things and being like, this is a scene where this person is upset and this person is trying to learn this info and this person is trying to get here, so that we're moving all of the plots forward at the same time. It feels like rookie like screenwriting mistakes. It feels like rookie mistakes to make, that like you should know that your scenes, your characters, it should be accomplishing more than one thing at a time, because otherwise you're A, just not going to get anything done, but B, everything feels stilted and it's not connected.
Well, and also there's no reason for us to be looking at a lot of the characters we're looking at if they're not contributing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of places where did you not feel like I did, where there were a bunch of places where we were jarringly constantly cutting between different scenes, and I was like, that scene doesn't seem over. I don't know why we've cut away from that, did this other thing, and then sometimes we never cut back to it, or we will, but it'll be so much further down the road that I don't know why we were there. Like, just we're checking in, but nothing interesting is happening, so we're not revealing anything about anything that's going on. And it doesn't feel like every scene matters, and that's really problematic. But anyway, real quick, because I should throw out some more things that I actually did enjoy about them. This is just like Ninja Turtles. I did not detest it, but like you seem to. But I think I overthought it and over intellectualized what is the purpose of this movie and is it accomplishing it, and I could not decide exactly what that was, besides just be a sequel with another familiar title that people will go see, and kind of trying to not be exactly what it was the first time, and of course it fails at that, but the the setup of here's a 2016 that's way more futuristic because we commandeered that technology and used it. That's all kind of fun. I think there's some. I think like getting to see what Earth looks like now is fun. There should be more of that. Again, there needed to be more of the disaster movie quality to it, because while you could argue, well, obviously people wouldn't be that surprised when the aliens attack again because we've been preparing for an attack and we've almost created an Earth utopia over it, which I thought was maybe going too far. But again, if this is a silly B movie melodrama, then that's awesome. So they like do that. That's fine. Yeah. But it was confused about its identity a little bit with that. But anyway, people are expecting the aliens to come back again at some point, but when it's kind of when some of what happens is kind of our fault and stuff, I feel like we need to be cutting to more like we need to show the scope of the world again, like we did with the first one, and see how people at large feel about what's going on. And we don't do that. We're always with people that are, and I'm not saying introduce a bunch more characters, I'm just saying like none of those characters are really civilians, with the exception of David's dad, and he's isolated and driving cross country through most of the movie. So or once we get to him. So like that's not really showing us very much. I would have liked, I don't always advocate for this. This is one of those movies where I think we could have gotten away with like a couple of news segments or something, just to get a sense of the broad scoping, feel of the world. And again, there needs to be a real reason that it's Independence Day again. The only thing I can figure is the alien queen kept watching that speech over and over again and decided to make it poetic. That's all I've got.
Yeah. And just to kind of what you were saying about like missing some of the people on the ground, I think that is part of what I was trying to get at when I was talking about the fact that we're missing some of the middle bits that make me emotionally invested in what's happening. We have a lot of buildup in this movie, and then we just go 0 to 60, aliens are attacking, and it's all military. In the first movie, and in most disaster movies, which I have already mentioned, I love disaster movies. I think they're awesome and super fun. I love seeing the Statue of Liberty get knocked over for the 80th time. It's cool to me. But like, you get that sort of, there's people on the ground, they're doing their thing, they're running away from stuff. You're seeing actual people die as opposed to seeing a building from Shanghai go crashing into London Bridge, which was ridiculous. But
if there was a lot of that and that was the point, then I don't care that that's ridiculous.
But like,
right?
I can get behind that. But like, we didn't see anyone like actually. There was one shot of a guy in a taxi, and I think they were in Shanghai, who like was listening to headphones and like didn't realize something was coming. But like, part of a disaster movie is the buildup, is the fact that people are slowly starting to panic and try to get out of the cities, and you have all these little like vignettes of people getting killed because now it makes the threat real, because and it's ramping it up, and it's ramping up the tension to the point that once you get to the fact that your main characters are in danger, or as they are in danger at the same time as these other people that are dying, you're getting that sort of like sense of oh no, like these people that I've grown to love, they're gonna die. Like, they didn't have that. They just went straight to airplanes versus aliens.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's a little confused about its identity, because I think there is an attempt, and I want to praise it for this a little bit. I think there's an attempt at getting away from that, trying to not be a typical sequel. And again, too much reused dialogue, so we've messed that up. But trying not to be a typical sequel in the same way that Winter Soldier isn't for Captain America: First Avenger, where one is one genre and one is a slightly different genre, or maybe a very different genre, but still has the same kind of heart of the characters. So whatever those people are about, or whatever the initial premise was in the first place. So we can move away from that, but it needs to then be decisively, definitely not disaster movie again, and be now straight up science fiction adventure, which I think is what it kind of is trying to be. And B, if it is that, it needs to not feel generic. And it gets to a little bit of a generic place with all that, I think, as far as being another science fiction adventure thing. It's a very generic one, if that's what it is.
Yeah. I don't want to, there's more I could say, but I don't want to keep like just ragging on the movie.
Absolutely. No, we should finish up. But I said I was going to say more things I liked, and then I criticized it more.
Yeah.
I appreciated the attempt at actually building on some mythology and lore, and the idea of the African warlord and those people like going after aliens. I never got the sense that there would have been aliens on the ground with the first movie, but I guess that makes sense. And so that was kind of a neat idea. I don't know, could have had that movie. That might have been okay. Like, go back 10 years and have that movie, or go to 15, whatever it would be.
Yeah, the 90s are so hot right now. People would love that like throwback 90s fashion.
It'd be hard not to make it. It'd be hard not to make it just Predator again. But
yeah, that's true.
You got that, especially because the aliens are apparently wearing armor. And I never got that sense from the first movie. Maybe that's was always the idea.
Yeah, no, that's definitely in the first movie too, because they have a whole thing where they like crack them open and like find the actual alien inside.
Yeah, see, I had never really put two and two together with that for some reason, and so here when we saw it again, I was like, oh, okay, now that's clear. I appreciate understanding what's going on with that. I'm with you. I thought that a lot of the effects looked okay. It's unfortunate that a thing that looked so real most of the way through with that first movie has now generated a sequel where the very first big special effects sequence is super CG and really obvious. That was unfortunate. And then later on, a lot of it got a lot better, but I really hated that it started with, oh, I look like I'm watching our cartoon, and it's Independence Day, and you've already got to work hard to impress me in this day and age with a thing that's supposed to be all spectacle. So that was unfortunate, but I thought that the alien tech was all really cool, and I liked getting some ground combat and getting some actual combat with the aliens and stuff. That was fun, and the basic idea of what that thing is that we shoot at the beginning that we shouldn't have shot at is an idea I like a lot.
Me too.
I don't think it ultimately works. And I can't get into it, but it didn't sell me on why that thing does things it does. But so I don't know, a lot of cool ideas at the beginning. But anyway,
I will say that
I guess
pretty
ultimately
much
kind of a disappointment. But while I was watching it, I kept trying to decide if I was liking it or not. I just couldn't even decide through a lot of it. And I feel like I'm lowering my standards sometimes because we keep going into these sequels and especially like decades later sequels that I just don't have any expectations for whatsoever. And so like at best, this was going to be schlocky and hilarious. And it is sometimes sort of that, but I don't know, missed opportunities all over the place. And at the very least, it can't decide exactly what it is, and that's always problematic.
Yeah. My last couple things with, just because I want to do the same thing you did, talk about some stuff that I actually really liked. Mentioned I do really like the visuals. Like you said, there were some hit and misses, but I overall liked them. I thought most of the humor really landed well for me. I know that.
Oh God, that was one of my biggest problems. Is a lot of that didn't. But yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I liked a lot of the humor, and I think
I'm so surprised to hear you say that after you said you didn't like the movie. Yeah, because I meant to lead with that with negatives.
Oh
yeah,
wow,
sorry,
because I didn't like most of the dialogue, and maybe it's just because I was so like eye rolly for the rest of the movie that like a lot of the stuff that was happening, like I laughed out loud multiple times. And again, I'm sort of comparing this just because it was one of the last movies I reviewed was Ninja Turtles, where I did not laugh once until the very end. With this, there were multiple times where I was like, oh, like, I get it. Like, that's funny. Or like, oh, you said a thing. Oh, that was a callback to earlier in the movie. Like, I got some of that. And I liked most of the ideas that they brought forth in this movie. I like all the stuff with like the pictures everywhere and like, you know, the twist with the thing that we found in the beginning of the movie. I like that. I like all the stuff they put forward. I just don't think that they focused enough on one of the things that they were trying to do. And like the stuff with the Queen was really cool. They didn't focus on one thing, and they needed to focus up a little bit more and trim out some of the fat that we didn't need to make me really care about the characters and the whatever plot they decided to have be the main plot.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how Lo and I feel about it. Both of us not feeling it, ultimately. I hate to say.
Sad day.
And like I said, I think I enjoyed it more than Lo, but I think a lot of that was trying to figure out if it was okay that things I thought were bad. And some of it was, and some of it wasn't. So yeah, I don't know. It's an awkward thing when you get into really schlocky melodramatic territory in the first place. Difficult kinds of things to review. And at the very least, would you agree that it's kind of material that's not working in a modern sense? We're kind of too past it. Like I still can't decide if this was a movie that you even could have made, but I think you could have done a better job with the script anyway. I think.
Oh no, there's totally, because there's stuff there. There's plot lines there that really could have worked. I just think that they tried to do too much in one movie, especially with the fact that they want to do more of them. Like with that many ideas, they could have really, really focused up a bit and maybe not reintroduced some of the old characters and maybe not introduced so many new characters. Like the psychologist lady who interviewed all the people that had dealt with the aliens, and that's how she knew about the picture. I did not realize she was a psychologist until like halfway through the movie. I was like, who are you and why are you here? What are you doing right now?
No, I mean, I would have thought she was like an Indiana Jones type, like, digging up stuff. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I would have thought she was an archaeologist, but no. So okay, yeah. And then like you said some of the humor landed for you, but like the nerdy buffoon guy that kept getting in the way and was like completely a what's the word I'm looking for? Like he was going to get people killed all the time, and he was there just for comic relief. Like, just 8 shades of no.
Honestly, he didn't bother me that much.
I could not deal with that guy.
Sort of forgot about him until you mentioned him right now. So maybe his humor wasn't landing for me, but I wasn't like rolling my eyes.
Yeah, he felt like he should have been in in one of the Transformers movies. Like, yeah, I hated that guy. Anyway, well, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. And the Curious Lo and I'm sure will at some point come back with another new movie review. We haven't been doing a lot of these lately. Just lots of other irons in the fire. But I miss going to the theater. I'm going to try to start going again more often if I can. And Lo, I know you didn't like this movie, but I appreciate you talking about it with me.
Thanks for having me, Cap.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm the Curious Lo.
And we'll see you again next time.